I, 34 male, filed for divorce after discovering my wife's, 35 female, affair with her coworker. We've been married for 8 years and together for 12. She's been acting cold towards me since last March. There were other suspicious things too. After some detective work, snooping actually, I came to learn she had been having an affair with her coworker. It was first emotional and then it became physical. I didn't confront her and I just kept acting like everything was okay. We had protected intimacy and continued our date nights and activities during that time. I was collecting evidence and working with my attorney to complete the filing behind the scenes and financial things. This lasted for about 4 months, and she was served last week. I closed our mutual credit cards, took my half from our joint account, and was completely prepared when she wasn't. In reality, I've been crying secretly some nights since I discovered her affair, and it hurts. I'll see it to the end, and I've talked about it with a few friends. Some of them told me that I should have at least let her know I was filing for divorce so she could be prepared. Was what I did wrong? Am I the idiot for filing for divorce without letting my wife of 8 years know? Not the idiot. It's not like she gave you the courtesy of letting you know of her extramarital affairs. It's the same as not letting her know of the divorce filing. She set the standard. She got what she gave. And the consequences of her actions are here to ruin what's left of what she already ruined. Moreover, you didn't blindside her. You took half of your joint account money, while you could have taken all of it. I'm sorry for what you're going through. For what should you have told her? So that she could have cleared out the accounts before you? Or spread false rumors about you being abusive and you get arrested while she takes everything at the house while you're in jail? I'm sure she'll try to spread some kind of rumor, or at the very least, blame you for the cheating. Screw those friends. Never go easy on a cheater. They must learn that actions have consequences. I would cut those people from my life, clearly not friends. They think someone having an active affair deserves anything? They support a cheater? Screw them. I wouldn't even be surprised if the friends already knew about the affair. There are a lot of people out there who would spend years not telling their friends they're being cheated on because they don't feel like they're in a place to do so. You're good. Also, does the coworker have a spouse? If so, ensure she's informed of the affair. Good luck and work on yourself. My wife has a book club that meets every Sunday at her friend's home. It's supposed to be a lunch thing, and she always tells me that she'll be home around 3. Every single time she's been late. The worst was getting home at 7. They went on a shopping outing. I've talked to her multiple times and have expressed that it's disrespectful. I'm fine watching the kids, pre-tween and tween. I am not fine with her lying to me about when she'll get home. It also just makes my life harder since she usually doesn't get home in time for me to hang out with my own friends. So I have to cancel. We both work and the kids are in school. I'm an active parent and I don't have a schedule to get out of the home time like my wife does. So yesterday I made it very clear that she needs to be home before 4 at the latest because my uncle's in town and we're supposed to grab dinner before he heads back to his home state. Well, she told me she would be home at 3, and at 3:45 she wasn't home. I drove to her friend's house with the kids. When her friend opened the door, it was around 4:15 now, my wife was there, and I handed off the kids to her. I told her I was going to go meet my uncle and didn't answer any calls during dinner. I got home and we had a huge argument. She thinks I'm a huge jerk for humiliating her in front of her friends. I told her this wouldn't have happened if she had arrived on time. Am I the idiot for going to my wife's book club and giving her the kids? Edit. I called. No response. Not the idiot. She backed you into a corner. She's the one who brought humiliation onto herself by disregarding your needs and going back on her word. You shouldn't have had to sacrifice time with your uncle. Nothing would have been solved by you sitting home one more time stewing and trying to talk to her about it again later. That wasn't working, and repeating the cycle wouldn't end differently this time. Yeah, it's bad enough to be 4 hours late, as she's been in the past, but to be late when you know your spouse has somewhere to be, and you promise to be on time, and then mute or ignore your phone? Unacceptable. What kind of reasoning did she give OP for this nonsense? Assuming she bothered in between bouts of blaming him for embarrassing her. My only quibble is with the children. It can't have been fun for them, and it's not okay to traumatize them like that. I was almost relieved he found her at the actual book club. With time gaps like that, I was starting to think she may be engaged in an affair. OP, my mom did this to my dad when they first got married and had kids. Dad had his hangout time, and my mom had hers. She was tired of being late to hers because Dad didn't want to leave the bar. So she loaded up my sister and brother and walked into the bar and handed my dad my toddler sister and baby brother and told him if he was ever late again to expect a divorce because her time was just as valuable as his. He was never late again, and they just celebrated 47 years of marriage last month. Also, for those worried about the kids, it's not traumatizing to go for a car ride and be dropped off with the other parent. It doesn't sound like they had to witness a huge argument or anything. My girlfriend, 22, and I, 22 male, have been dating for 4 years. So far, our relationship has been great, with no major relationship hurdles. However, we had our first major relationship hurdle last night, and I'm unsure if I was an idiot. Since last week, my girlfriend has been talking about how hot the Olympic swimmers are, especially the Italian swimmers. So she does it to tease me because she said she likes how I look when flustered and irritated. But I've told her many times I don't like it, and it makes me insecure, especially when she keeps talking about that one Italian swimmer who's all over TikTok. Last night, my girlfriend was again showing me this TikTok video of that Italian swimmer and how hot he is. I was mentally frustrated at this point. I then just told her that sometimes you have to make do with what you have, and she too would never be as pretty as Anna. I immediately regretted saying that, and my girlfriend got quiet, and we barely spoke after that. We've barely spoken even today, and I've apologized multiple times, but my girlfriend is just very quiet and seems extremely sad. To give some backstory on Anna, she's one of my close friends. Anna's from Serbia. I've known her since middle school, and we initially became friends because we were both huge fans of Djokovic, who's from Serbia. But over time, we became very close friends. I introduced her to my parents, who also liked her a lot. When Anna asked me out, I got extremely flustered and asked if we could just remain friends. We still remained close friends after that, and that didn't affect our friendship. I started dating my girlfriend in college, and I told her about Anna. Out of respect for my relationship, I've maintained a healthy distance from Anna ever since. My girlfriend, however, was always a bit insecure, and she'd ask me who was prettier between her and Anna. I always reassured her it was her, and that for me, she was the prettiest woman in the world. Yes, Anna objectively looked like a model, but I would never tell my girlfriend that, and I always just reassured her. However, last night I lost my cool a bit and told my girlfriend that Anna was prettier than her. I do regret saying that because my girlfriend just seems extremely sullen since then. Was I the idiot? Welp, you guys are done. Everyone's the idiot here, but you made it real and you made it personal. Your girlfriend was being obnoxious by doing this, but you also escalated it by involving someone you both know in real life. Don't think you're coming back from that one. You should have said something about a ridiculously hot movie star, not someone in their actual lives for sure. Yeah, well, you'll never be as hot as Ryan Reynolds. I mean Blake Lively. I don't believe there is a comeback from your commentary about Anna. If you love your girlfriend, you don't think such things. You can acknowledge that someone is pretty, but like a painting is pretty. You only have eyes for your girlfriend. Now you just told her that you don't think like that. So you're probably with her because you're not with Anna. She will never forget it. By the way, I do believe your girlfriend was pretty immature with her Italian swimmers. I just think that you made your feelings a lot more real than her with some sportier on TikTok. You guys are done. She praised an internet celebrity who she'll probably never even meet. Also, she called him hot. She never said you weren't. You directly criticized her and compared her looks to your friend, whom she's already insecure about. Her comments were teasing. Your comment was a personal attack. Oh, and you are the idiot. Dude, this relationship is over. I, 29 male, have a girlfriend, Kathy, 26, and a best friend, Ava, 28 female. To clarify, my girlfriend is really good friends with my best friend, and she's more than fine with our relationship. Ava and I have been best friends since we were kids. I grew up poor and she was rich, so she always made sure I ate and had a place to sleep. This girl is pretty much the reason I'm where I am currently. Even though I've got a job now and try to offer to treat her, she insists on paying and won't let me pay her back. It's her thing. I gave up trying, and I've seen her do it with our entire group of friends. So we just take it as a fun quirk of hers. Kathy's pretty much the love of my life, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. So what I did was incredibly tough. The three of us and Ava's boyfriend had gone out to eat. He had to leave early, so he didn't pay. Ava said she was going to pay. Then, in true Ava fashion, she went to the front desk under the pretext of going to the washroom and paid the bill. Obviously, I tried my "let me pay you back, why'd you pay" things, but she wouldn't hear it. Then out of nowhere, my girlfriend accuses her of implying she's poor. Kathy said, "Listen, I know you like to pay, but I'm a darn adult. I don't need you to pay for my meals like I'm a child." Ava seemed shocked and apologized. I was shocked too, because Kathy doesn't ever act like this and has always been fine with Ava paying. I took her to the side and Kathy said, "I don't care if she's your best friend. She's making me look pathetic." She then proceeded to insult her looks and her religion. I got angry because Ava was genuinely just a sweet person. I told her maybe she needed time to cool off and walked out with Ava. I called Ava an Uber and then drove back home myself. Kathy has her own car, so she could take herself. She had not been drinking either. When Kathy came home, we fought because I left without her. Honestly, I don't know what's going on. Am I the idiot? Hey man, you're definitely in a tough spot here. The issue is that your girlfriend is jealous and insecure. Your friend did nothing to warrant that outburst and insults. This woman may be the love of your life, but she's immature, rude, and trying to control who you choose as friends. Trust me, Kathy has many more issues with Ava than just her spending habits. You need to get Kathy to open up or accept that you don't know her as well as you thought you did. Also, pretty much the love of my life doesn't mean the same as the love of my life. So find out if you really do love her, because pretty much isn't going to cut it. Everyone's the idiot here. Look, I see a lot of people saying your girlfriend is insecure, and maybe she is, but I would genuinely feel terrible if someone was always paying for me. If we both paid every once in a while, no problem, but always getting treated would make me feel like I'm taking advantage of someone. Also, feels like some weird power move for Ava to sneakily pay. Also, you were wrong for leaving with Ava and walking out on your girlfriend, whom you claim to want to spend your life with. At the first hurdle, you turned your back on her. My female 48, husband 46, and I have a 20-year-old daughter, Ellie, who's currently on vacation from college. About 5 months ago, Ellie told us she had a new boyfriend, who I'll call Tom. This came rather out of the blue, as Ellie hadn't mentioned seeing anyone or that she was dating, but both my husband and I were supportive and happy for her. However, Ellie was strangely secretive about the whole situation. Usually she's an open book, especially with me, and always shares details of her personal life. On this occasion, she didn't show any pictures, and we knew next to no information about Tom other than they met at a party through a mutual friend. Ellie spent the past month of her vacation in her college town, and the plan was always for her to return this weekend. Ellie asked if she could bring Tom with her for a few days of the trip, as they were getting serious, and she wanted him to meet us. Although we mentioned that we barely knew anything about him, Ellie said it would be a surprise, and that we'd love him. Given he's clearly an important part of our daughter's life, we agreed, and said we'd look forward to spending the weekend together. Yesterday morning, we went to pick up Ellie and Tom from the airport to drive them to our place, and we were shocked. We knew instantly that Tom was much older than Ellie, and certainly wasn't a college student. I was just in a state of surprise, but didn't want to cause a scene, and told my husband to do the same. We drove home, but it was a frosty journey, which Ellie commented on. When we arrived, my husband point blank asked Tom how old he was. Tom said he was 44. I was immediately disgusted. He's only 2 years younger than my husband and old enough to be Ellie's father. My husband continued to interrogate him, asking how they met and the whole background. Ellie explained that it was at a party, and Tom was there because he was well known around the town. They realized they had a lot in common and hit it off from there. I really didn't want to hear anymore, and my husband told Tom to leave. Ellie shouted and said how unfair this was, and that we hadn't given Tom a chance, and that he made her happy. Tom could sense the tension, so he left, and Ellie followed behind him. I texted Ellie to tell her that we'd love to see her and to come over to discuss the situation. She asked if Tom was welcome, and I said he wasn't. Therefore, after labeling me a judgmental idiot, she told me she wasn't coming and that they'd be staying at a local hotel and catching up with friends. I feel terrible about the whole situation and don't want to lose my daughter over it. My husband isn't budging and says he'd have to be held back if he ever saw that man again. Am I the idiot for saying he isn't welcome, or have I done the wrong thing? LOL. Tom sensed the tension. What part of get out of my house did he not understand? I was your daughter once, nearly the same age gap as the guy I was dating. The absolute best thing my parents did was keep the lines of communication open between us, because as the guy started to systematically cut me off from all the other people in my life, when I finally went to cut bait, it was my parents who stepped out to catch me. Play the long game here. The best story I've heard is that the dad befriended the guy. They talked about stuff relevant to their age group, did dad-age stuff together, talked about things like insurance, retirement, and house payments, went out to eat at a boring grown-up place instead of sports bars, and generally acted like middle-aged men. She realized she was basically dating her father. They had almost nothing in common, and they broke up. This is the way. I had a similar, and my foster dad was what I believed was amazingly chill about me dating a guy in his mid-30s when I was 19. I spoke to him over a decade later, and he said he wanted to deck the guy, but he knew if he pushed me, then I'd dig my heels in, and the relationship would go on for longer. Instead, he asked me to check in, so he knew where I was and when I'd be back to make sure I was safe. However, he did other things to gently highlight the inequality of the relationship. For example, he'd make sure to say how nice I looked every time I left the house. The boyfriend would send me back to the house for not wearing makeup or the right clothes. It didn't take too long for me to put two and two together and realize the boyfriend was a control freak who wanted a trophy girlfriend.